You're praying, but what if God feels silent right now? If you've been struggling to connect with God in the middle of postpartum depression and wondering why it feels so hard to pray, what do you do when faith feels distant? In this episode, I'm sharing 3 simple, grounding tips to help you reconnect in your prayer life and experience God's presence in a gentle, real, and pressure-free way right where you are. Do you want practical steps to rein in the overwhelm and start feeling like yourself again, but struggle with feeling hopeless, unsupported, and misunderstood? If so, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Stephanie, wife, mom of 4, and a 2-time acute postpartum depression survivor. I learned the secrets of how to overcome the feeling of drowning and fully thrive as a new mom through life-giving hope and support. If you're ready for validation, encouragement, and those easy practical tips, then take a deep breath in, exhale, and we'll take the first steps together. Here we go. Did you know that I have a free community of mamas just like you? New moms who are struggling to survive, much less thrive, and are looking for hope, encouragement, and validation. We share life together. There's a short weekly devotion, encouraging quotes, and so much more. There's even chances to win free coffee and prizes. Come join us at bit.ly/PPD support group. One of the hardest moments of my postpartum depression journey happened thousands of miles from home while my family was serving as missionaries in Asia. At the time, I was already struggling. I was battling postpartum depression, trying to care for my new young family, trying to keep functioning, and honestly just trying to hold on to my faith. I felt fragile, exhausted, and confused about why God seemed so very far away. One day, I was walking through one of the busiest intersections in our city. People were everywhere. Cars, buses, bicycles, and pedestrians flowed in every direction around me. It was the kind of place where everyone seemed to be rushing somewhere important. As I was making my way through the crowd, a man from our organization, a man who held a much higher position than I did, stopped me. I assumed he wanted to check on me or encourage me. Instead, he looked me dead in the eyes and essentially told me that there was no place on the mission field for someone going through what I was going through. No place for someone struggling like me. No place for someone battling postpartum depression. No place for someone whose mental health was falling apart. I can still remember how those words landed. I was already questioning myself, already wondering if I was failing, already wondering why God seemed so silent. And in that moment, it felt like someone had taken every fear I had and just spoken it out loud. As I stood there in the middle of that crowded intersection, I felt incredibly alone. Not just alone from people, but alone from God. I wondered if maybe everyone else could see something I couldn't. Maybe God was disappointed in me. Maybe I had somehow become unusable. Maybe my struggles had pushed me too far away from His plans. But looking back now, I can see something I couldn't see then. That man's words were not God's words. His opinion was not God's opinion. And my postpartum depression had not changed a single thing about how God felt toward me. In fact, some of the moments when I felt furthest from God were actually the moments when He was carrying me the most. I just couldn't feel it yet. If you've ever struggled with postpartum depression and wondered where God is, you're not alone. Maybe you felt abandoned, disappointed, forgotten, or like your struggles somehow make you less useful to Him. Oh, Mama, I've been there. In today's episode, I want to share 3 practical ways to reconnect with God's presence during postpartum depression, even when He feels incredibly far away. 1, you are not far from God, even if it feels that way. One of the most painful parts of postpartum depression for many faith-filled moms is the feeling of spiritual distance. You may feel like, I can't pray like I used to. I don't feel God right now. Something must be wrong with my faith. But feelings are not always an accurate measure of truth. PPD can affect emotional connection, mental clarity, and even your sense of spiritual closeness. That does not mean God has moved away from you. Maybe you used to feel peace during prayer or worship, but now even sitting still feels hard. Your mind is foggy, your heart feels heavy, and prayer feels out of reach. So you start wondering if you've somehow failed spiritually. But what's actually happening is not spiritual abandonment, it's emotional overwhelmed. So shift this thought. Feeling far does not mean I am far. Even a simple breath prayer counts. God help me, or I'm here, God, or be with me in this moment. God is not measuring your performance, I promise. He is present in your struggle. Second, prayer doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful. A big barrier for moms in postpartum depression is believing prayer has to sound a certain way. Long, structured, emotionally strong, spiritually together. But postpartum depression often leaves you without the energy for any of that. So instead of praying imperfectly, many moms just stop praying altogether. And that's where disconnection can grow. So maybe you sit down to pray and your mind goes blank, or you start crying before you even know what to say. And instead of pushing through, you give up and think, I can't even do this right. But prayer was never meant to be performance. It's connection, even in fragments. So try lowering the pressure. Say prayer doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be honest. That's what God craves. Short prayers still count. Help me, Lord. I need you, Lord. Please hold me together today, God. And God meets us in our honesty, not our perfection. Third, when you don't have words, let scripture and silence carry you. Postpartum depression can make it hard to articulate what you feel. You may not even know what to pray. That was me. And that silence can feel discouraging if you believe prayer has to be constant talking. But there is power in simplicity and even in stillness. So maybe you sit in the nursery while your baby sleeps trying to pray, but nothing comes out. Instead of forcing words, you feel numb or distracted. And then our old friend guilt shows up again. And you think, I should be doing this better. But prayer can also be rest. It can be presence without pressure. Try this approach. Read one Bible verse slowly. Sit quietly for a minute without pressure to speak and repeat a simple phrase. What I used was, God is with me. Even silence can be a form of surrender when words feel out of reach. God is not limited to your ability to articulate. He meets you in the stillness too, Mama. So feeling far does not mean you are far from God. Prayer does not have to be perfect to be powerful. Silence and scripture can still be connection. God meets you in honesty, not performance. And you don't have to feel spiritual for God to be near. Mama, today's podcast is so important to me because this was so hard for me. As I sat in Hadley's nursery, when I prayed, I got a massive headache. When I turned on music, my ears felt like they were on fire during the worship. And when I tried to read my Bible, my eyes blurred in a way that I had just never experienced before. But God was still near. He was still carrying me in a way that I've only ever experienced during my time in postpartum depression. Not that I want to have it back, don't get me wrong. But looking back, if postpartum depression has made your prayer life feel distant or difficult, just hear me gently. You are not failing spiritually. You are walking through a season that affects your mind, body, and emotions, but not your worth or your access to God. Even when you feel nothing, He is still near. Even when you have no words, He still hears you. And even here in this hard, quiet, uncertain place, you are not alone. There is hope, and I am living proof of that. Mama, don't forget to come join us in our private Facebook group at bit.ly/PPD support group. If this episode is triggering for you and you feel you need additional help to process your thoughts or feelings, please call or text the Postpartum Support International hotline at 1-800-944-4773 or visit them online at postpartum.net.
Hi, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of my mom's show.
If so, would you take 30 seconds and share it with a mom friend who may be struggling to feel like herself and is in need of some encouragement today?
Also, please leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. It blesses my mom's heart to know this podcast is helping you.
Okay, time to go change a diaper and do the school run. I'll meet you back in a few days for another episode.
Take care.